toured the permanent collection galleries are used to taking things that are very, very complex and working out ways to get through them. Shanghai, of course, started off being, well, this is just kind of one of those easy things to do, right? It's just Shanghai, and it's only 150 years or so, not so tough. It's really rich, so you're going to have to make your choices and select your tours and kind of judge your audience and figure out how you're going to get through it because, boy, there's a lot to say. Complex period in Chinese history and a really close look at the visual culture of a single kind of global city in China at that time. So, any other questions that we can take care of now? I know you've all got to get out of here pretty quick, so they have to be short.
Here.
My question relates to the video about the tearing down and changes. The people in Shanghai who are cooperating on this exhibit, do they have any comment on that aspect of what is going on in Shanghai today?
The director of the Shanghai Museum is also the head of kind of a preservation group within Shanghai. So there's a real move right now in Shanghai to preserve at least some of the significant older buildings. And if you go to Shanghai, you can take a Shanghai Deco tour, architectural tour, that's giving some of that's kind of eco-tourism based on that kind of thing. So they're involved with a lot of what we're doing here. So there's not a, do they see it as negative? No. But Zhang Jinjun, the artist who does that, is making an interesting statement because, of course, the Shurkemen were, those are the buildings that replaced the gentry, the courtyard gentry buildings in the 20s and 30s. These Shurkemen were the things that were the one single generation family was living there, or two generation family, rather than the extended family. So that was very new in the 20s and 30s. Those are all being torn down now for these new high-rise buildings. So he's making a kind of an interesting statement. And also along with that, Dany says we're going to have, it's going to be built on a platform of used bricks. Well, the bricks actually come from those Shurkemen, those buildings. We're paying to ship 2 tons of bricks as artwork from Shanghai to San Francisco. And that, because if we bring them here, we have to pay import duty on them. So, other questions? Sure.
Poster with a woman in underwear, Western style underwear with a lot of flesh showing. It said the title is "It Always Begins with a Smile." Is that the title that came with the poster, or was that given by the museum?
That came with the poster, and that's obviously a pinup. I mean, that's obviously the Chinese woman through the male gaze. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The range of posters range from the kind of modern woman and the exercise kind of women. What we don't have in this exhibition, and there were a lot of them, were posters that advertised the services of prostitutes and their images. And there were a lot of those in Shanghai. You would go down, there are photographs of whole walls of Shanghai of posters of prostitutes advertising their business. So there's a lot. I mean, that's part of what Shanghai was. I mean, you're not going to be able to avoid it in this particular. And we did not try to duck it. We didn't try to glamorize it any more than. But there it is. It's there.
Can you help us define Shanghai Deco as opposed to Art Deco from the Western?
Okay, so on the symposium paper that I'm giving, and that's a complicated thing, and we're using the term Shanghai Deco because you're going to see that in the literature. But in fact, there wasn't such a thing. There was Art Deco as it was practiced in the theaters and movie halls and the dance halls and such that you see that was based very directly on what was going on in Paris, Miami, Chicago. But there was Shanghai Deco, which is actually has much more to do with the nationalist movement, and it's about Huahua, it's about national goods movement and so on. So what my argument will be, and what I'm saying in the symposium, whether I'm right or wrong, is that that's a construct. That's a way to kind of take something that is complicated and simplify it, and by simplifying it, you create a myth which isn't based on the true reality of the situation. The nature of that furniture is there's a desire to be modern. And what was seen as modern in that environment, a lot of it was based on the Art Deco movement. So there are elements and things that come from Art Deco movement. But the materials, the woods, those are leguminous trees, the kinds of hardwoods that the Chinese have been using for centuries. You see motifs like bamboo and things like that that show up on them, would never show up in Miami or Paris. So it's a kind of thing that people tend to do. It's like all of us saying, well, Shanghai, that's about glitz, and that's the Paris of the East, or whatever. We try to simplify and codify these broad and complex kinds of issues. The furniture is broad and complex. Shanghai Deco was a way to kind of pigeonhole it that scholars have been using, and they're creating a whole other thing that you all will have to help unteach, because they're teaching something that's not based on the full reality of what was going on in Shanghai at that time. That's a complicated question to answer and hard to deal with. So for some kind of audiences, you may just use Shanghai Deco and leave it at that. But for others, kind of dispelling those myths are important, and that would be one that I would like you to look at and think about dispelling a little bit.
Well, Paula has given the note. We ran out of time. Thank you so much, Michael.